Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome back to Sunday Devotion. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to take a couple of weeks off. Emotions were riding high leading up to Mother's Day, and it was just hard for me to sit and film and especially to edit. If you don't know, I edit Sunday videos, Tamitha doesn't, and so it just was a little more than I could do at the time. And so I appreciate your grace and your patience for me to give me a couple of weeks off, and I hope that you guys have had a wonderful couple of weeks, and I hope you spend a lot of time with your moms. Many of you will know, I lost my mom in August, so this was my first Mother's Day to be without her. The fact that I'm talking about it right now, I'm not crying, I don't know how that's happening, but it was heavy, a very emotional time. I did not know what to expect, and I just really wanted to focus on God and what He could do for me through that time to bring me through, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to do that. But we're back. And through this time, this is so interesting. Through this time, I've been just looking around. I do this a lot. I look around to see what God is teaching me. I just look for things. And I'm flipping through Instagram one night and this picture pops up. I don't remember who posted it. It was one of my friends, obviously, but I don't remember. So I'd give you credit, but I can't remember. But I did. I snapped a screenshot of it. I remember doing that because I wanted to remember. But this is basically what it said. It said, sometimes God needs to do a work in you before He can do a work through you. And it was interesting to me because I had been feeling like I needed to pause. I'd been feeling like I needed to, well, let me put it this way. I've been feeling very inadequate. And let me tell you what I mean by that. And that may not be the right word, but I've been feeling almost counterfeit in that I come to you guys with these devotions and I tell you how God does things and how good He is. And I do believe that. And then here I am in the swells of grief going, I cannot tell them how good God is when I am in such pain and I'm not even thinking on the good things of God. I'm being very selfish. And it kind of hit me like it was a pause. I just want to say it was a pause. It was a pause. But now when I look back at it, after seeing that quote, I realized it wasn't me pausing on my thoughts or my trajectory. It was me pausing for God to talk to me and let me hear Him. And He was trying to say to me, sometimes I need to work in you. I need to help you. And this is one of those times when I need to be your helper. I need to bring you through this. And after that, you can share with others again, you know? I think sometimes we might feel guilty doing that, just stopping, sharing the gospel as much as we normally do, just stopping and kind of taking a breather. I don't know. I'm probably saying this all wrong. So if I am, I apologize, but I didn't really know how to share it with you. But in the time I have been away, I feel He's been doing a work in me. And it was funny because it led to so many different things in my mind, how God does things. And one of the ways it led to me or had me reflecting is this. Over a year ago, Vince felt that God was telling us we needed to leave the church we were at. Now, if you don't know, he's a music minister and he leads worship. And he felt strongly that God was telling us that we needed to not be at that church anymore, that our time there was up. And I felt it as well. And my children felt it. It was one of those times when everybody agreed, right? So we made that leap, not knowing what God had for us next. And the reason I want to point that out is because that's unusual. In the ministry, if you're married to someone in the ministry, if you've been in the ministry, a lot of times when God moves you from one place, it's because you've done what He has for you to do there and He's ready for you to do something somewhere else. It's a good thing. A lot of times it's, if you don't understand the ministry, think about in the corporate world, when somebody comes in, they do a job and then they move on to go do it somewhere else, but they've left good things where they were. That sounds really worldly, but that's a good way to explain it to you. And so many times when we've been at a church, we felt that we were ready to move because we had new things to go do for God, right? But this time we didn't feel that. We just felt we needed to go. And I was nervous, but here's the reason I was nervous. Vince is called to the ministry. And if you know Vince, you know that about him. He is called to lead worship to God. It is what delights him. It lights him up. He loves to lead people in worship. And that's because of God. That's the calling He's put on his life. Well, anytime we've ever been between churches, which has not been very often in our life, honestly, more recently than ever before, it's a struggle for him because he really feels he's not living up to his call. But this time's been different for Vince, which has been interesting. So when we decided to leave that church, another church contacted Vince and asked him to come and fill their pulpit and possibly be called to come to their church. And so he did. He filled their pulpit. It was a really bad time in our life. It was while Mom was in the hospital. It was while she passed away. It was at the height of COVID. It was really, really bad. It was a bad time in our lives. And we just didn't feel God calling us to that church. It was not the church. The people were lovely. The church was beautiful, everything about it. But we felt like we weren't being called there, which was weird because, and we thought we'd go, why is it we go to church and it feels so good, and then we leave and we feel like we're not being called there? Well, sometime later, Vince expressed to me quickly, just in a little quip, maybe God's telling me to take a break. And I didn't think he believed that, and I didn't really believe it, and we kind of didn't dwell on that thought very much, but we just kept going and, praying, talking to God, asking for direction. Well, sometime later, we visited another church, and Vince really loved this church. He really enjoyed the people, but there was no place for him in worship. There's no place for him to lead. And so I was nervous about that because I know Vince and I know he needs to lead in worship. Now, I am a teacher and I have always taught. I'm either teaching one class or two classes or three classes at church. I've always been a teacher. And so I too was nervous. I'm like, they don't really need us. They're doing really well and they're really established. But Vince just felt like this is where we should be. And for the first time in our marriage, he really leaned into it. So we decided to join that church, and I said to him, are you sure about this? Are you going to be able to do this? And he said, I just feel like God is telling me I need to be taught. And I said, really? He said, I feel like he's telling me I need to attend and be taught. Well, that's unusual for us because that's not who we are. We're typically teachers and doers and goers and workers. And, he leads worship and he sings and all that. So I said, okay, if you feel God saying that, that's what we're going to do. So how ironic is it that I see that quote while I'm going through a very similar situation, feeling like God's put me on a pause, right? So I see that quote and I let it kind of sink in. And I realize this is not an unusual concept. There have been many times where God has somebody working for him, spreading the gospel, and then pause them while he's working on them. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So in my children's life, I don't share with you my children's stories, what they've been through, because it's not my story to tell, but they have been through very individual situations, what they have been through and grown through. And I've always said to them, and Vince has always said to them, God doesn't waste your experience, and what you've gone through, you will use to help others go through similar situations, and you will help lead them to God because of that. We know that. That's how it works, right? But I started looking back and I thought, during those times, there was a pause where they went through the time. There was a pause where God worked on them through that time, and then they were able to speak about it. So I feel as though God is saying to us, hey, you need to pause. You need to let me do some work in you. You need to spend some time with me, and you need to learn more about me and the situation you're in before you move forward and continue to share about God. And so it gave me a little bit of peace in the situation. And so for the last 2 weeks, that's what I've been doing. I've just let God talk to me. I've taken a pause and I've let him speak to me and help me through this really hard time. Mother's Day was a really hard time. My children were beautiful. They tried so hard and they did such a good job making me feel surrounded by their love. And I have to remember my children are grieving too. She was an amazing woman in all our lives. I say she was a marvelous light and we orbited around her. So it's a very big change for us. And we're all still grieving, but everybody's working real hard. And God I think he's just saying to me and my family right now, let me get you through this and you'll be back at it before you know it, And I feel okay about it. And here's one reason I do. Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. Listen to this. 6. I was going to go back and read a little more, but I'm just going to go to 6. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. He being God, he began a good work in you, and he's going to carry it on through completion. And if there's a time he has to say, hey, spend some time with me, come back, he has to reel me in, spend some time with me before you move forward. I'm going to not see that as God's not using me anymore. And I'm going to see it as, how can I focus on him more? How can I hear from him more and know what he wants me to do next? So why am I bringing this to you today? Here's why. I can't be the only one who's feeling this way, right? There's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of you. There's a lot of believers. Somebody has to be feeling the same way. And I just want to try to be an encouragement to say to you, hey, he might not be using you right now outward, but how is he working inward? What is he saying to you? I get people in my mind that I feel like he's saying this to, which is so interesting. I feel like there's people that he's saying, slow down. Let me complete this in you before we complete that in you. Or let me complete this in you before you continue. And I feel like somebody out there may be feeling that today. And I just want to remind you that that is how it works. Look through time. There's been times where there have been pauses in people's lives where they've had to take a moment. And what is revival, right? What is revival? When I look at revival, I used to, in church, we talk about the Great Commission and evangelizing people and bringing in people and bringing people to know the Lord and doing that groundwork. But then there's a pause for revival. And in that revival is when the church itself, the people that are there, work on themselves, right? And sometimes it's a week, it's 2 weeks, whatever. Sometimes it goes longer. But it's that revival time, that refreshing. And if you feel like, I don't like to say it like this, but if you're feeling like God's not using me anymore, he stopped using me, I just want you to pause and reflect and see if it's just a time of revival for you. Maybe it's a time for you to focus on yourself and to see what God has for you to do with this work before he can complete what he's doing in you. That may be simple, or it might have been really rambly. I don't know, but that's just what I wanted to bring to you today. I have recently felt like God's not using me. And then he revealed this to me. Sometimes I'm doing a work in you before I can do a work through you. And so I'm going to wait and see what he does. It doesn't mean I'm just going to go, okay, well then I'm done working. No, I'm just going to wait for that next opportunity. But during that time, I'm going to focus on him, the things he's taught me, the things he's saying to me, and what he's leading me through right now. And I hope the same will happen for you. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for the way you teach us in all different ways, through scripture, through quotes, through songs, through visuals, through things we hear, things we feel. You're just amazing how you communicate with us. And God, if someone else is in this time of pause or this time of reflection, I pray, God, that during that time they won't get distracted, but yet they'll be even more focused on you. They'll spend more time with you and not let the world distract them from you. And they won't sit back and think that you're done with them. Because God, we know you're going to continue your work in us through completion till the day of Christ Jesus. God, I pray for those people that are kind of like me, that are in that moment of revival, that you'll really, really send your anointing on those people, on us, on the people who really want to share you with others, God. I pray that you'll really instill in us the desire to know you more first and then share you more. God, I just thank you so much for the things you teach us every day. God, for somebody watching today that just needed to hear something from you, I pray something that you gave me to say will be exactly what they needed to hear. For those that are going through pain or sickness or suffering in any way, God, I just pray you'll bring them a new, fresh awareness of their situation, a new fresh answer, a new fresh thought, and help them to know that you are all they need. You are always enough, God, in every situation. And I thank you for that. I thank you for all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks so much again for giving me that time of reflection. I'm still in that time of reflection, but I don't think it's pausing me from devotions. I think that devotions will continue. I may just be bringing you a lot of what I'm hearing during this time. He did a lot today. He's done a lot today, and there's more to say about God and his goodness and how I'm excited that he will continue to do a work in us. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you have a blessed Sunday, and until next time, bye now.